Basically, it started with a baby owl showing up at my doorstep. Literally, I'm not being hyperbolic. A baby owl straight out of Harry Potter showing up at my doorstep, to getting my first camera, discovering a love of wildlife and nature photography. Then I got cancer. Then the pandemic, and here we are. I booked my first solo road trip out of state, started car camping, and the rest is history. I mean, of course, a whole lot happened in between, and that's what this video is going to be about. So, stick around. Hi there, friends and adventurers. Heather here from Heather's Hikes and Adventurers. And whether you are a newcomer to my channel or whether you've been here since the very beginning, I hope you'll stick around till the end of this video. I want to have a little tea with you and let you know kind of what got me into van life, specifically part-time van life, why I decided to finally take the plunge right now instead of continuing to wait for someday to come, because it wasn't coming quick enough and I had to make it happen. So, story time. Before I get too deep into this story, I'm going to show you where I'm telling it from, because this campsite is amazing. I know you can see a little bit out back, although the exposure is not great. I've got a great tree. You know how I love trees right here at camp. But let me just give you a quick look, and then we're going to get right into the story, I promise. And I promised you an owl. I'm going to show you pictures so you believe me right at my door. Stick around. Alrighty, you ready to see my site? Let's go check it out. That's Monument Lake in the Everglades, more specifically Big Cypress National Reserve. All right, I'll give you a closer look. As you can see, it's quite a bit later and I am all tucked in and secure for the evening, but I did want to continue my story, so we're just going to pretend like this is a bedtime story instead. All right, let's go. I would say it seems kind of like a happy accident, but it doesn't really feel like an accident. It kind of feels like it was meant to be. For the record, we're back in 2018 right now. I forgot to mention that. I'm going to kind of go through like a brief timeline of the last few years, or I guess 5 years already, geez, to where everything kind of started. I had coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, depending on what you believe, I kind of feel like it was fate. I had just gotten my very first camera. I had just started doing hikes with my mom and trying to get more out into nature, and decided that I wanted to start trying to do photography. And just a couple of days after my first camera came, which was a Canon point and shoot, one of the power shots, I opened my front door to turn off my sprinklers, and there was a baby owl just sitting there on the little bench at my front door. completely took me by surprise. I'm pretty sure I almost screamed in its face because it was like less than 3 feet in front of me and it was just so unexpected. And then I promptly freaked out on its behalf because I knew nothing about owls or birds in general at the time, and I was scared to death that it was going to die any minute and must be in distress, because why would a baby owl be on the ground? And then I started doing some research while I was waiting to hear back from some rescues in the area, and realized it's actually not only normal but common when owls are in the branching phase, when they're still too young to fly and they're just kind of starting to learn. In fact, I posted a short on one owlet exhibiting this, but when they're just kind of starting to jump and flap from branch to branch, they'll sometimes fall out of the tree. And that's perfectly normal. It's just part of them learning. Mom and Dad will bring them food if needed, if they miss a feeding before they can get back up to the nest. You just have to kind of, if you come across it, make sure that they don't seem like they're in any distress or in immediate danger. You know, like if they were in the middle of the road or something, you'd obviously want to intervene. So that made me feel so much better. And then I found out that there actually was a nest kind of hanging over one of the trees in my front yard. So I was thrilled that I had my camera, first of all, but it was so much fun. I got to spend the next month or so watching this little family, both Mom and Dad, and it turned out there were 2 owlets, not just one, so I got to watch both the siblings learn how to hunt, learn how to fly, Mom preening them. I mean, it was just the most amazing experience to be able to witness that from right from literally inside my living room, looking out the window. And that is what awakened my passion for birds and what turned me into a huge bird nerd, because I was just so fascinated by watching them. I had no idea they were that complex, that they were such great parents. You know, I was just immediately fascinated by birds, and I wanted to learn more and see more. I had my camera, so I started venturing out to local places and discovered a couple of local gems, my favorite being Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive, which I am going to do a video on, but a few other local gems as well that I'll get to on my channel too, because I want to share them with you guys. And it just turned my newfound hobby into an obsession. I wanted to be out in nature whenever I could be, hiking, taking pictures, observing birds, alligators, snakes, deer, anything and everything I could find. So before I go any further, Smoky and Flora, by the way, I named my new Florida Panther Flora because I'm so original, Smoky the bear and Flora the Florida Panther. But we are going to show you a quick clip of that whole owl experience, as well as a couple pictures of Lake Apopka, just for significance and nostalgia's sake. So kind of skipping ahead to the next significant chapter in this story, if you will, suffice it to say, I continued to get more and more into hiking. I started getting more comfortable going on solo hikes around the area, taking more pictures, getting more into photography, learning more about the wildlife and the birds and the different species. I got involved in some wildlife face group books, which I'm actually admin for a couple of nature and wildlife ones for Florida now, as well as a camping one. But it was just, I don't know, it was like a whole new world had opened up to me, and I wanted more. But skipping ahead, I do want to also mention, before we get to all the way to the next chapter, one more significant nature-related kind of theme was that I went to my first national parks. I visited Zion, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, and Arches. So 4 of Utah's Big 5, and we being my parents and I, also went to Lower Antelope Canyon in Arizona and saw a couple of other really cool things while we were out there. And that was just like, between the wildlife earlier in the year and then these natural wonders out west, I was hooked. Like, I just knew that nature, wildlife, adventure was my calling. Like, I just needed to be out there, and I wanted to share everything I saw with other people so that they could experience the beauty and find out about these places too, and about these just awesome things. Then fast forwarding to 2019. In the first half of the year, I ended up trading in my old Nissan Quest for Terra. My old Nissan pooped out on me finally, and I finally had a new reliable car again, so I wasn't confined to just doing hikes right near my home. I could start going a little further and doing more of like a day trip type thing where I was going, you know, a couple hours away and exploring more places. I mean, it wasn't ideally what I wanted to travel, but it was better than nothing, and I was starting to be able to, you know, slowly start crossing off some of my bucket list destinations here in Florida and exploring more, getting more comfortable on the road, being on my own in these situations. Unfortunately, by the end of 2019, I found myself in the hospital. So that's kind of when this unfortunate health journey of mine really got going. I've always struggled with health issues. I had endometriosis, mental health issues back as a teen. I've always struggled with like anxiety and depression since a teen, but I started having issues which were related to GI. Ultimately, I was diagnosed with endometriosis. I just was always in a lot of pain. It caused a lot of other issues, but those had mostly been resolved, and for the most part, over the last years, I had been pretty healthy. I hadn't really struggled too much with my physical health, although my mental health has been kind of an ongoing battle on and off. But that all changed at the end of 2019. I ended up being hospitalized with what they finally diagnosed as atypical pneumonia, although I have my doubts. I kind of think it was a catch-all because the CT of my lungs was slightly abnormal and pneumonia-like. None of my other symptoms were really pneumonia related. I'd had a fever for like a week and a half that wasn't going away even with antibiotics. My white blood cell count was elevated. I was just having a lot of kind of seemingly unrelated issues, but all at the same time. So I ended up in the hospital. They treated me there, kind of sent me on my way, and I was recovering. The pneumonia-like symptoms, as far as my breathing, were resolving, and I was definitely improved, and I was healing. I was starting to get out a little bit more and do real easygoing, kind of slow hikes, but I was having a lot of like breathing issues, elevated heart rate. I just didn't feel right. Like, I would drag my trash out to the curb and I would be so winded and exhausted, and just from that little bit of activity. Unloading the dishwasher was just too much, and it wasn't getting easier like they said it would after a few weeks of recovery. So without getting too detailed, we did more lab work, more testing, ruled some things out, and it turned out that my thyroid levels were off. So they ordered more thyroid testing, referred me to an endocrinologist where I had an ultrasound and some more in-depth thyroid testing. And that uncovered more abnormalities, which led to a biopsy, which led to a thyroid cancer diagnosis that I was not expecting, and having to schedule an operation with a surgeon and have my entire thyroid removed in order to save my life. And this all happened in less than a 6-week period, from me having gotten out of the hospital and still having these symptoms and saying, okay, let's follow up with more testing, to being in the hospital to have my thyroid removed to get the cancer out of my body. So it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. I was terrified. I felt horrible on top of all of it. And then I really honestly didn't think I was going to pull through. But fast forward to February 2020, operation successful, no signs of cancer, still to this day again. So I'm so thankful that I did have those weird issues and that weird hospitalization that caused me to continue getting tested, because Otherwise, I know I would not have caught the cancer as quick as I did. Even the surgeon was like, it's incredibly lucky that you were able to find out as fast as you were, because normally arriving at this diagnosis based on your initial experience would have taken a lot longer. And as you know, right after February 2020 was March 2020, and we all know what happened then, which drastically slowed down hospitalizations and operations and all of that. And then everything started shutting down, blah, blah, blah. We all know what those early months were like of that period. Kind of on my path to recovery and integrating back into work remotely, I unfortunately, a few short months later over the summer, lost both of my remaining grandparents and one of my cats, all in a 1-week period. So it just kind of felt at that point like the hits kept coming, but through all of that, I got such an appreciation for my life. And I vowed, you know what? This has just made me realize, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional, how short life is. And I can't keep putting off what I want to do. Like, I have to find a way to make it happen, because what if I put it off and there is no tomorrow? I mean, things can change like that. So I vowed then and there, I'm going to find a way to make this happen. I'm going to start seeing more of the world. I'm going to start seeing these things that I want to see and experiencing these things I want to experience while I can, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. We were also, before all of that happened, now that I've collected myself again, sorry about almost losing it there on you, we had been planning a vacation again, my parents and I, to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons for June of 2020. But as you know, with all of the shutdowns and everything closing, that ended up getting put on hold until the following year. So we are now in 2021. And while I was researching our trip to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons and planning the itinerary, I happened to stumble across van life on YouTube and just solo travel in general. And I started seeing all of these inspiring women that were out there on their own, driving around the country, seeing the world, experiencing the things that I was wanting to go out and experience, and having these adventures. And I started seeing they weren't just doing it in RVs and things. You know, I discovered this whole, like, okay, there's these vans, like that would be more doable. I might not have to wait as long to make that happen. And then I started seeing SUVs and minivans and cars, and I'm thinking, well, heck, I've got a minivan. I, sure enough, stow and go the seats, and I was like, I can do this. So I started doing some more research while I was planning our trip to Yellowstone. And I can tell you, when we got back from that trip, which actually, let me pause here because I'm going to insert a clip of Yellowstone and Grand Tetons, just a real quick, like, couple of minutes to show you kind of what that experience was like. You can see, if you haven't experienced Yellowstone and that area for yourself, there's just no words. Between that and my vow to see the world, I was like, okay, I cannot delay another minute. I had already, after my life-saving operation and my whole life is short realization, I had already booked my very first Airbnb for my very first out-of-state solo road trip in the fall to Smokies. Specifically, I was going to finally make my first visit to see my very first fall season with the changing leaves anywhere. My very first trip to the Smoky Mountains, my very first out-of-state road trip by myself. My first time driving out of Florida by myself, period. So yeah, I was very nervous, but very excited. And that was going to be happening in the fall of 2021. And I wanted to get in practice trying the whole car camping thing, since I had discovered all these other people doing it and really felt like I could make it happen, and that maybe doing these short trips for a few days at a time to explore areas that were too far for day trips, but not, you know, crazy expensive or things that would cause me to have to take weeks off of work, which wasn't feasible for now. I was going to do this, and I was going to try my first overnight at a Florida State Park campground where I felt that it would be, you know, a relatively comfortable, safe environment, and see how I did with just 24 hours sleeping in Terra. I really wish I had some video clips of that first camping trip, but I don't. Although, if I can find any photos, because I did take some pictures of that setup and my first night there, so if I can, I'm going to insert them here. I don't know if I have any or not, though. But it went so much better than I thought it was going to. I was worried I was going to chicken out, so I made sure it was less than 2 hours away in case I needed to drive back to my house in the middle of the night, worst case scenario. But I slept so well. I was so relaxed. I was so calm. I mean, it was the best night's sleep I had had in months. And I think it was because I was in my happy place. Like, being out in nature and being surrounded by trees and birds and wildlife had become like my safe space, with everything that had happened and me trying to heal myself inside and outside, and a few other personal issues that I had been dealing with at the time. Like, being out in nature was where I was happy, safe, at peace. I could let my stress melt away. I could ignore reality while I was there, put it on hold until I got back. And that was just like, yes, I finally knew I could do it. So since I already had the Airbnb booked, I went ahead and booked an extra night in one of the national park campgrounds. And I thought, okay, this is going to be my next test. If I can handle a solo road trip out of state, and if I can handle staying outside in my vehicle in an unfamiliar place, in an unfamiliar state, without cell service, then I'm going to be able to do this lifestyle, and I can really start taking it and running with it. And that's what I did. So let me show you a little bit of that trip to the Smokies. I have a video tour of my Airbnb because, oh my God, it was so amazing in the mountains in Townsend. I also have a little clip of my campsite in the Smoky Mountains campground inside the national park, and just a couple of really beautiful clips of the fall color. So let's take a look at that real quick. All right, guys, don't mind my voice. Remember, I'm only working with one vocal cord these days, but I just had to show you my cabin. I'm so impressed with it. It's even better than the pictures, which never happens. All right, this is the view from my front porch. How cute is my front porch? Okay, wait till you see the inside. I'm so in love. I'm so glad I got this cabin. I love my fireplace. Such a cute little bathroom. And it comes with a full washer and dryer. And then wait till you see my little bedroom. It's so cute. I love the view too, and I even have my own little bear. Pretty awesome. Anyways, highly recommend this place. I found the troll bridge.
There. Unfortunately, it's no secret, and sometimes it can be a bit of a crawl making our way around the loop with so many other sightseers. Like many other drivers and passengers, I love a tunnel. Morton Tunnel is short, but in the right light and from the right angle, it makes for a pretty good picture. Just after the tunnel on our right, we'll see a couple of pullouts.
I just checked into my site and check out my view. Okay, so if you've made it this far, we are nearing the end of this video finally. And I have brought you with me to the present. I had a successful first solo road trip out of state. I had my first successful car camping trip, and here we are now. I have just been booking campsites since. I'm still part-time, full-time mom, but part-time van lifer for now when my kiddos are with their dad, and I'm just doing short adventures. I'm trying to fit in at least 1 or 2 extended trips that are at least a couple of weeks each year for now. And of course, I hope to extend that and go for longer periods. I do have a job where I could technically work fully remotely without having a home office at an actual house with very little modification. So it's definitely feasible that I would be able, when my kids are out of school, out of high school, that I could do, weeks on the road at a time and just come back to home base for, little stretches in between, which is ideally what I would want to do. But in the meantime, I went ahead and dove into this YouTube channel. My biggest hang up in doing that has been my voice. One of the ongoing health issues that I've had as a result of my thyroid cancer was that it left me with one working vocal cord. My other one is paralyzed. I'm not sure if I have a feeling that this is permanent. I keep hoping that I'll go back to normal, but I'm pretty sure this is my new normal. And I was already not a big fan of my voice to begin with, so it's always been something I've been a little self-conscious about, but now that I feel like I sound significantly less pleasant than I used to, it was a really big personal hang-up of mine to get started. I didn't want to subject people to my voice, but in that whole, life is short, you need to go for what you want, I decided that that was kind of silly of me, because I really do feel like I have a lot to offer people. I just have this passion and this love of the natural world around me, and I figure if I'm going to be out there experiencing it, and I want to share that with people, I really feel like this is a great platform to do that. I can experience it for people that are not able to experience it for themselves. I can share tips and tricks for people that are, and that are trying to research the way I do for my trips. I can maybe, hopefully, with luck, inspire a few people along the way that have been wanting to do this themselves, but were maybe hesitant, or were maybe waiting like I was for the right time. Maybe didn't think it was feasible or accessible right now. For those people too. So if there's people that I can inspire or help to discover this passion and learn about themselves and progress on their journeys as well, then I want to bring them with me. I want to take you guys along on the ride. So I kind of felt like, why are you waiting? This is silly. If people don't like you, they don't have to watch. So here we are. And I am going to shut up now because I feel like I've done enough talking. My health journey is far from over. I have committed to myself that my number one goal in 2023 is going to be making my health a priority, both mental and physical, but especially getting my physical health diagnosis nailed down so that I can truly start to heal myself physically, as well as this whole mental, spiritual, emotional journey that I've been on. That van life has just, I think it's honestly been the best thing for me that in my adult life so far, aside from, of course, my family and my amazing children. This has been probably the best thing that I can remember in years and years that's happened to me, is discovering this and finding a way that I can start to travel in an affordable and accessible way until I'm able to do more of what I had envisioned in the future. And I hope that you guys will come along with me. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sticking around if you're still here watching. And I hope that if you're not already, you'll consider subscribing and coming along on this journey with me. Till next time, guys. Bye. And I appreciate you all.